it's really easy to sell. You have something, somebody else might need it. Don't complicate it with any baggage. That's it. You have something, somebody else might need that something. Your job is just to find out more about them. And then with total authenticity and total integrity, explain how your thing's going to help them with what they need. It's really simple to sell.
Are you a corporate escapee and wasting valuable time attempting to figure challenges out on your own? Well, this podcast is for you. We bring you firsthand experiences of guests going through many of the struggles you face each and every day. We get real with no corporate BS. And now, over to your host, Paul Higgins.
Hello and welcome to Corporate Escapees. Our guest today started selling at the age of 5. She was a natural, but she was also really had to do it for personal reasons. Then she left school at 15 and started a really impressive sales career that spanned both the UK and Australia. Her last company didn't give maternity leave, so she left, traveled the world through a pregnancy, came back, had a wonderful child, and started to chill out. Then a friend said, why don't you do a bit of consulting? And that's now evolved into an absolute amazing company. So what will you get out of this? You'll get her amazing story of sheer determination and also her gratitude. You'll also get what she wished she had have done in the early days to grow faster. You'll get a simple mind shift change to selling, which is absolutely brilliant. And you'll also get why sales is the oxygen to any business and how you can get more of it. So what I'll do now is hand you over to Charmaine Keegan from Smarter Selling. Welcome, Charmaine Keegan from Smarter Selling to the Corporate Escapee podcast brought to you by Build, Live, Give. Welcome, Charmaine.
Oh, thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Oh, look, it's my pleasure. I can't wait for this episode. So why don't we start with something that your family or friends would know about you that we wouldn't?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, just this morning I was teaching my kids some magic, so this is good timing because I'm totally obsessed with magic and actually took the first ever course on magic in Europe quite a few years ago. So anything to do with illusions and magic I'm completely obsessed with.
Brilliant. What are some of your favourite tricks?
Oh, I wouldn't share what the tricks would be, but simple tricks that you can do anywhere, anytime, at a table, at any point, wherever you are. That's the best ones to go because you're just keeping people entertained, laughing, open. It's letting them know the impossible is always possible. The only limitation is your mind. So anything that's in front of you at that point, you can make disappear.
Great. I wonder if do your kids magically make their clothes in their room disappear?
No. I'm working on that.
Correct. Well, when you crack that trick, let me know. That'd be fantastic.
I'll let you know. I'll make a lot of money then. I'll be a billionaire.
Correct. So, look, I know you've had a brilliant career, started in the UK, came across to Australia, but mainly in media, outdoor, etc. And, you were top salesperson, but why don't you just give us a quick summary of your career and how that led to you basically leaving to doing what you do today?
Oh, yes. So thank you, Paul. So as you mentioned, that's been, I actually started off at a very young age. We didn't have any money. I grew up on a very poor farm in England, and if you wanted to buy anything, it was pretty much you go out and earn the money. So I was out the front of our little farm selling things about the age of 5. I frequently remember going out there and selling all sorts of things. And those were the days there wasn't much traffic that went past either. So, I didn't make a lot of money, but I had my first job at 11 and basically hard graft and, you do more than your bosses asked you to do, all the things I thought were obvious, and then got into sales and thought this is easy. You just understand somebody and then you look after them. It's just great customer service. And it seemed to be that it was easy, but it also occurred to me that not everyone finds it that easy. So I had that career of sort of 20 odd years of sales and high performance sales. So I was managing to smash targets 2 or 3-fold. And then around about 11 years ago, I decided to have a child. And, the company I was working for at the time didn't give any maternity leave. So wow. I decided, okay, well, when I leave, I might as well go traveling. So in fact, I got pregnant, left, went traveling for 6 months. No one knew I was pregnant at the time. I went traveling for 6 months. And when I came back, I had a child. And I thought this like little house in the prairie. I thought, I'd be like a hippie. And within 3 months, I was thinking, I really want a job now. Somebody give me a job. And a friend had said to me, oh, can you come in and just see my team? They're underperforming. And my question to her was quite simple. Do you think it's a lack of skill or how much of it's due to the market? And it occurred to me the questions I was asking her, she just hadn't considered before as a small business owner. And so she went, I hadn't thought about that. I thought it was due to them. So I went to see them, and there's a few things that stood out. One, it was easy to see where the gaps were in what they were doing. And two, it was also very easy to get salespeople to trust in me and for them to want me to help them learn. And so I thought, there's something in this, because when you've got people that intrinsically are open to you going, you can help me make my life easier, because that's what I say, I'm just here to make your life easier. When you're not authoritarian, they suddenly went, you can make my life easier. So my big mantra has always been make it easy to sell, make it easy to sell and make it easy for your customers to buy. So that's what I did. I went around and a few friends asked me. Then after 2 or 3 years, I said to my husband, I think I just called myself Charmaine Keegan Consulting. I just added a name. And then my husband, I just thought it was an in-between filler. Yes. And then I said to my husband one day, I think I will go back to a real job now. And he pointed out, well, you are doing this like 4 days a week. And I thought, I suppose this is my job. And then something clicked and I took it more seriously, and then started putting better programs together. And I was always fascinated with sales and psychology and trust, but that's when it changed its direction. So at no point did I actually think I want to leave a corporate job. Yes. It just it grew organically, as it does for many people, and that's how it grew.
Brilliant. That's a great story. And starting at the age of 5, you've got such wonderful skills. And I know I've been in one of your workshops, and you can, as a participant, definitely get the benefits of that. And I always ask people, was it easier or harder when you left? And I know for you, it seems like it was easier, but not good to assume. And you taught me that. So I'll ask you, was it easier or harder?
That's a good question. Well, I think it was easy because it grew organically. But if I stopped my full-time job with a beautiful salary, getting paid the 15th of each month with 4 weeks holiday, and went straight to this, I'd say that would have been hard, really hard. So, obviously in reflection, I've done things a lot differently. If I look back and knew what's going to happen, but I would say it organically grew. So in that respect, it was easy. I'm not going to say, Paul, it was easy to get the money in, by the way.
Yes.
Because it didn't mean I suddenly had the skills to run a business. I had the skills to be a good salesperson. So, there's lots of things there with, hindsight's a wonderful thing that I would have put in place to support me if I was to do that journey again.
Great. And what are some of those things? What immediately comes to mind?
I would have definitely stepped back from what I was doing and had better reflection early on without sort of rolling with it, Yes. I would have recognised sooner on, this is actually, take this more seriously. I took my clients seriously and what they achieved, but in my head I was thinking, I didn't add any value, Paul, to what I was giving. I thought, this is obvious, this is 20 ways to overcome that objection. So I didn't realise the value I was actually bringing to the table. And I think if I paused, I got a coach. I think if I got support, if I listened to good podcasts, if I'd read better books, if I did all those things, I think I would have probably been where I am today, probably less than a third of the time.
Yeah, and I think the wonderful thing now is, if you're listening right now and you're just about to go down a similar journey to Charmaine, it's, there's just a wealth of information. I think it's nearly the opposite. There's actually so much you can consume these days that it's, it can be overwhelming. So I think, finding people, coaches, mentors that can, weed, sift through those weeds and actually point you in the right direction is great. But I think, look, I'm a bit the same. I was, I've been so successful in corporate, I can do this without a lot of help. And I've certainly learned and changed that considerably. And I've always got a mentor and a coach, and I'm always in a mastermind myself, and then, helps others. But as far as the help, if it's more recent, etc., but who's supported you and who's helped you of recent times?
Oh, that's clever. So recently, it's actually only been very recent that I'm taking a breath to step away from the doing. I'm up until very recently, I've been the 3 parts of the business, right? The selling, the running, and the evolving. And so I have patches when I can step back and look at the future for the next 5 years and evolve, but pretty much I'm back-to-back workshops running them, and I'm also selling them. So I just pick up books. I pick up, if I can pick up great I like watching documentaries, anything to do with mindset. I don't have a coach at the moment. There's a particular person in a business that I feel like I'm running parallel with her, but she's about 5 years ahead, and I know her cousin, and I've already reached out to her to say, hey, can we have a conversation? Because I think this could fast track a few things that I need to do. And she certainly had good coaches along the way, and they seem to be the sort of coach that would work for me as well at the pace that we're at. So I'm nowhere near where she is, but she is definitely where I want to go. That's sort of parallel with sort of the direction that I want to go. So, but if I really went back in a practical sense, people that help are just people that actually help me free up time. Simply things like, let's be basic here. 5 years ago, just get in some babysitters and cleaners. Suddenly, I'm freeing up 5 hours a day, thinking time. So once I'd made enough money to pay those practical elements to day-to-day running of a young family, my standard of living in my thinking space, that space, that gap, that took off. And so practically, that's what's helped me get to here. But now it's just, I look at Facebook at business. I just follow things like that when I've got a moment. I just pop in on that and I'm picking up hints and tips, and I just find them invaluable. There's certain things I constantly go to. And that some Facebook groups, I just think, oh, that's invaluable to watch how they've answered that. And having 100 people answer something like in a mastermind and things is great, because everyone's putting their input and bringing to the table their experience.
Yeah, look, I couldn't agree more. And I think, the ability to spend 20% of time on your business. I remember a brilliant presentation by one of the top Stanford professors, and he said, every CEO should spend 20% of their time on their business. And you've said the same thing. I love that word, evolve. That's excellent. And to me, the number one thing to do for most people is just get a virtual assistant, or get an assistant. It doesn't have to be virtual, but you need someone to do stuff that you're not best at. I always say, focus on your core four, and then, get a VA. So, look, I couldn't agree more. And I know you've just got some more hands on as well, some more people into the team, and that'll help. So the next section we'll move on to is the build section, because I know people are absolutely waiting to get your tips on selling. But when you meet someone for the first time and they say, Charmaine, what do you do? How do you describe that?
I just say, quite simply, I teach people to sell.
Great. And when they say how, what do you say then?
Yeah, they often go, oh, and then they'll say, what type of people? Yes. And they're trying to work out who it is, like if it's business to business, if it's retail, if it's business to consumer, if it's where is it? And then I would say anybody that needs to sell anything. So it's an idea, a concept, a presentation, a message. Anybody that needs to convey something with some clarity, that there's money exchanging hands usually, but not always, then they are selling. And my mission is to get everyone comfortable with that word selling, because so many people are not comfortable with it and see it. Some people see it as an unpleasant word. So I warn them to the word of selling, but it's just communication. If you don't like the word sale, take the word sales out and put the word communication in its place, and to simplify what selling is.
Yeah, and look, I think that's a great point, that most people, especially, if they've come out of a non-sales role into running their own business, it's always, sales is irky, it's not for me. There's a lot of negativity. How do you help people get over that mindset of, because ultimately, if you don't sell in your own business, it won't last. So you've got to get around yourself. How do you help people get around themselves?
Well, that's a really clever question. I get asked to do quite a few, guest speaker and keynotes, and they're often entrepreneurs, or they've got businesses that have been around maybe 5-10 years. And first of all, sales is the oxygen of your business. The more money you have, as you've just said, Paul, you can then get your VA. You can then, do people to do AdWords if you're not into AdWords. You get people to do the jobs that's not your core strength. But that all takes money. And the oxygen, the money, is sales. You've got to embrace that word. You can't do it reluctantly. You've got to embrace it. You've got to go, this is great. This is learning new skills. This is great. So my big, I suppose, the key message when I do those guest appearances is, it's really easy to sell. You have something. Somebody else might need it. Don't complicate it with any baggage. That's it. You have something. Somebody else might need that something. Your job is just to find out more about them. And then with total authenticity and total integrity, explain how your thing's going to help them with what they need. It's really simple to sell. And so my thing is I want them to intrinsically lean into the word selling and go, oh yeah, I get that. Oh yeah, and be not just comfortable, but embrace it, should I dare to say, embrace the word selling. Some people go, yeah, I love selling. We recently had somebody actually from an aged care centre who do quite a lot of the NDIS, and
Yes.
frequently this comes into play. They'll say to my team, oh, I'm not a salesperson, I don't know why I'm here. That's a frequent mumble. And by lunchtime, they're like, oh, this is just communication. This is amazing. Oh, of course, this is what sales is. Oh, I can help. This helps with my communication with my friend, or understanding my daughter or my partner or colleagues in the office. And they've just had this word stuck to it, this attachment, which is just not true. And my job is to turn that 180 to get them to go comfortable to say, I'm a salesperson. I may be an architect and a salesperson, or a designer and a salesperson, or a whatever and a salesperson, but really step into that word salesperson and own it, because when you own it, you'll do it better.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. And a quick shout out to Shelto McPherson, one of our great members in this community. And he's said, look, he's got a brilliant product he's got to sell to corporates, hasn't really ever sold before. And I said, Shelto, you're a journalist. You'll make a perfect salesperson. You ask the best questions, right? Yeah. And honestly, like you said, it's communications about asking the best questions to work out that gap from, where someone wants to be. Can you get them there easier and faster than other people? And if you can, great. So yeah, look, I completely agree. And you talked before about, you can help anybody selling, but when you market to people, who do you market to? So if I go to the website, smarterselling.com.au, what's your core market there?
Very clever. So we have 3 tiers that run parallel, actually. The total ideal person in terms of a profit margin for us would be a director that would, I've got a very clear, I can tell you the name of somebody. So yes. they would be probably a sales and marketing director. They'd have 50 staff. That's like tier 1 to us, because they would have a conference. They would have us there at their conference. They would get successes immediately during the 3 hours. They'll come out that conference. They'll book us. I've actually got something in mind, because this person in mind is actually our target client. They came out, they booked us immediately for next year's conference. They booked for a mid-year conference. They then went back and they got their customer service team to have a 2-day. They got 3 other departments in the organization to be trained. They got the finance team, they got the marketing team, engineers. They realized that everybody is a touch point with the client. So in terms of a profit margin, that's our top stream. And what would happen in that particular client is, as new reps join, it's a no-brainer. They send an email. Can we send along Sandra next month? And they flick them on. Like, there's no question of money. They know the value. It's just a transaction. Yeah, so that's sort of tier 1. Then the other tier, which is almost parallel with that, would be business owners, people, so probably sole traders, the people up to 5, 10, maybe 12 staff. And they are different. We get very involved with their businesses. We know their goal, their outcome. Today we've been doing a lot of mystery shopping for one client, so we can understand exactly what the directors want, but what the team want, and then what their customer journey is for them, plus what the competitor journey, everything. And what happens with those is, again, once they've been on, they get successes quickly. And what they're very highly likely to do, particularly if they've got under 11 employees, they almost always invest in them to keep going on through the journey of other sales programs to evolve them. So they may have come in potentially a bit hesitant or not, and say, oh, we'll do this one, and my team have got these gaps. And then they do that 2-day, and then they go, okay, we'll just book the next ones. And every 3 months they have the next one. And the team keep building on the skill set and advancing, and they just get money in quicker. And then they immediately, usually within 6 months, take another member of staff, and we get an email, we're just taking another member of staff, we're expanding, and they put them straight on the next workshop. So all that work that we do at the very beginning, which is very in depth, like this particular client we've got now, I reckon we spent 2 weeks of work on them, but I know that would stand us instead now for the next 3 years. And every time they send somebody, it's just a top up of information, maybe 5 hours, maybe 2 hours, maybe a day and a half, but it isn't that amount of work again. It's just a top up of where they are now in the market. So if we had 2 tiers, they're the two tiers.
Brilliant. So as far as you getting new business, what's the key drivers of you getting new business at the moment, new clients in the door?
Great question. So at the moment, due to the circumstance in our particular office, we rely on Google AdWords. So Google AdWords and our website. So we have a lot of work in the background working on an evolution of our website. We have very high bounce rate at the moment, so we've got a lot of people looking at that. A lot of things we're addressing that back end. But the moment somebody calls us, we've got their business really, because we're salespeople, and so if they call up.
So Google AdWords, if you had to give 3 key tips on now, given all your experience, what you would do differently around Google AdWords, what would that be?
Oh, what a great question. So what I do differently, I would not put my head in the sand and open up that Google Analytics and go, oh, I don't get it, and close it down and go back to doing something I can do. I should have quicker stepped into, what does this bit mean? What does 50% bounce rate mean? Oh, Mr. Marketing, Mrs. Marketing, what does that mean? Oh, it means they've put negotiation in. You've got 400 people come to your site over the last week, but all of them have jumped off because you don't mention negotiation. I should have done that 5 years ago, rather than hemorrhaging money. I might have just been driving to work, throwing the money out the window. And luckily, for the ones that do get through, we are able to understand them and look after them and get passionate about them authentically. If we don't take them on, but we get excited. But my goodness, I could have saved, and the money that I've spent on that, I couldn't even share with you. I'd be too embarrassed. But that would be the key thing if I could go back in time. You know what, Charmaine, learn. You can't just, and I've had it recently with an entrepreneur who said to me, can you write my website? Because I like the wording you've used there that you've helped me with. And I said, no, you need to be empowered to write it, because you've got to guide the marketing person. You can't just hand something over. This is part of the job. You can't just hand over. They can do the back end, of course, but you have to drive it. Your message, you have to be on top of it as a business owner. You can't think that person over there is on top of it.
I totally agree. And I always talk about, delegate, don't abdicate. I just don't think you can just purely abdicate to an expert and just say, look, I trust you, go away and you do it. And I certainly think, the smaller the business, it's even more important, because ultimately it's your personal brand and, it's you, and you can't get someone knowing you in a couple of weeks versus you have known yourself all your life. So, look, I think that's great, and some great tips on Google AdWords. So, what do you look for? So when you hire a team, so how big's your team at the moment?
So we have 3 people in the office, and we have 4 contractors. So they're in variable, sometimes 2 days a week, sometimes 5 days, mainly off-site, but there'd be at least 1 or 2 contractors around. They've been with me for a long time. They just happen to do other jobs, and so they just do 1 to 3 days a week. So, for example, 1 person. So
great. So when you are looking for new staff, what are the key questions or the key things that you look for a really successful team member?
That's a great question. Well, I actually have an enormous list of recruiting and onboarding that I share with clients. So in terms of questions, I have about 500 questions.
Yes.
And so the main thing with questions is what we call, often people say, what would you do in this situation to somebody? And then they give you the textbook perfect answer. So all of my questions are all to do with, when did you do this? Yes. What happened?
Yes.
And that allows them to have to stop. They have to think back. And what I'm looking for, Paul, is how honest are they with their reflection? If they go, oh, you know what, Charmaine, it was my fault, actually. This client called, I didn't call them back quickly enough. I should have done. If they give me all things like that, that's a winning recipe for me. It means they've got reflection, they've taken accountability, they've noticed where their gaps are, they've been honest. I get them to drill down in it. But if, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, brilliant. That's great. And the last question in this section is, challenges. I know that, you run a hugely successful business, but what are some of the key challenges for you to take it to the next level?
Making sure my challenge is I'm after another member of staff, and my challenge is, I think it is for most people, making sure you've got the right stuff. Onboarding the staff, we've got nailed. All that side we've got nailed. But actually, my main challenge is I need a lot of help with recruiting. I need other people involved. And I've learned that over the last year. I need other people to interview with me just because I need they work with their head and I work with my gut. And my gut feel is, yeah, they can do the job. And so my challenge is making sure I've got good people on. Once they're on, they can get up to speed quickly as long as they're smart. And because I've got plenty of plans in place, we've got a very clear five-year strategy. So I'd say my biggest challenge to the business is staff, just getting another person on board, the right person. So this time I've taken my time. It's taken me 6 months. I've now got the right person, and now I need another person.
Yeah, look, I know it's a bit cliched, but, A players just make a massive difference. You'd think every time back in your career, when you've worked with someone that was a B player versus an A player, it's night and day. So I totally agree. So before we go into the next section, I'd just like to mention my daily posting of killer content on LinkedIn. So if you just search Build, Live, Give, and you'll find our company, and then you'll find me in there, Paul Higgins, and I'd love you to connect with me and let me know you listened to this fantastic episode with Charmaine. So then I can basically continue to give you great content. So just go to LinkedIn, Build, Live, Give, and let's connect. So the next section is the live section. So what are some of the daily habits, Charmaine, that help you be successful?
Great. Well, I think my biggest thing that I've only realised recently, that's even a habit, is gratitude. Put life into perspective. I'm living a life that's beyond my wildest dreams. If I can think back to the 4-year-old me, living how we did, I just think this would be a pipe dream, living how I'm living. And I think if everyone could take it back to the basics of just the fact we woke up in a bed today, hopefully most of us, and we've got food in the fridge, I think that level of gratitude just sets your mindset in a very different place. It helps positive. You can't be gratitude and negative at the same time. And there's a whole lot of psychology behind that, which I'm really into, as you know, but gratitude. So I think one of the daily habits is just, I don't think to myself, exercise gratitude. I just happen to wake up and actually I just see my ceiling in my bedroom and think, wow, I'm living in a house that has this beautiful ceiling. And I just walk past, into my kitchen and I just think, wow, I live in a kitchen like this. So I think that helps set the day up. I think everyone's into setting the day up in the right way. My other way is planning, prioritize. I don't know how you are at that, Paul, but I think planning is a big one for me. Is that for you?
Yeah, look, I'm, definitely. I know before the show we talked about, my father's a dreamer and an optimist, so I definitely get that from him. And then my mum is a planner and organizer. So it's for a lot of people, those parallels. I suppose not many people can work on both of those. But yeah, I love to be planned and organised. And to be honest, when I've had this recent kidney condition, it's been really hard because I had to stop my life and not plan, and that really irritated me. So now I'm back to planning my life again.
I think my husband thinks I'm only happy when I'm constantly planning. Even on a holiday, I'm planning the next holiday. And it occurs to me that actually he's right. But I think we plan in the office, we prioritise, and that's prioritisation. I reckon 5 times today already, we have reprioritised our jobs. And I'm a big believer in it. When you carve off jobs to be the right thing, you can gain 2 hours a day. Because we can all, if we all, got paid on how busy we were, we'd all be billionaires. So, but where's your energy and effort going to? Is it going into things that are going to drive you forward? Or is it going to things that, frankly, somebody else could have done, as you've mentioned? So you can put it to your virtual assistant, or whip it out quickly, or just that plan and prioritisation. Another little habit I'm going to share with you, Paul, is I do business development every single day. I don't think about it, but if I haven't made at least 10 phone calls, usually between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., done at least, had some touch points, minimum of 10 a day, then I feel almost like I haven't drunk water or something. Just those touch points. So that's a big one. I don't know if you
that's a brilliant habit, and definitely we get our clients that track their time, and it's amazing how often they say, yeah, I do sales. And I'm like, okay, so let's track it for a week. And it's like they come back with an hour or 2 hours.
Oh,
I'm like, you're not doing selling,
no.
at all. So, I think, what you talk about there is a life habit that once you get into it, it will get you that oxygen, as you said, to fund your business. Now, just a bit of a question off script here, but I talked about my mum and dad. Your personality is so infectious. I just love talking to you. I love was in the workshop. Is that from either of your parents, both of your parents, or do you think that's just you?
Well, I don't know what you're referring to.
well, I'm just saying, you're more like your mum or dad. Like, are they optimists, like this ball of energy, or is it just you who's like that?
You know what? My mum's half Indian. She left school at 16, had children, lives in a little house in the prairie, has nothing on my mother. She has no vision for anything except just to pick the daisies and be happy. So I'm very grounded when I go to England to see her, because she sees beauty in the simplest of things, and she wishes for nothing. Like, she wishes, she's not jealous. I'm not jealous either. I couldn't care less what somebody else is doing. She lives a very simple life, she would call it. And so part of that comes from that. My father was a complete workaholic, died at 50. Just gave too much to people. They asked for 10, he gave 50. And I'm completely following that footsteps, which I'm very aware of that I'm doing. And I have to keep having the right people around me to say, you know what, that client only needed that. Why did you give 6,000%? So, given 110% would have done. So I'm having to look after my health better and things like that, because I'm sort of definitely following his types of footsteps. But also, he was a labourer. So I also have in my mind that I've got to physically almost hurt when I serve somebody. So there's many, many learnings there. But, he died when I was 16. So there was not really an adult life that I had with him. But he certainly taught me hard work. We were out working at 11. He would say the practical side of my life has come from him. I remember saying to him once when I was a kid, I want to get so-and-so from the shops. The shops is like 3 miles away. I must have been like 10 or something. And he said, well, what are those things dangling on the end of your body for? I looked down, my leg. So it's like, you know what, you want it? Off you trot. And which is why we had a stall out, because I remember saying to my mum actually at Christmas, God, we annoying mum as kids, do we want for stuff? And she said something very interesting. She said, you never ever wanted. I went, oh, Mum, but are you just thinking that? She goes, no, because we didn't have any money. So wanting something would have been fruitless.
Wow.
So there was no point wanting a bike or anything. You were just grateful if a rusty old heat bike turned up that was 2 sizes too small, and you would go out there and you would make it work. And you were grateful for that, because that's sort of as good as it got. So many, I'm daily grateful for that upbringing, where the sheer practice. I mean, we had a very, toilet roll, that didn't exist in our house. It was ripped up newspaper. Toilet roll was a luxury. Camping, that's a luxury. We didn't have that sort of, I've never been on holiday with my parents, my family, ever. This was all luxury. And I honestly think day to day when I see people, I think they have no concept of how good they've got it. And I know people in a third world country would look at me and think, at that time you had no, you don't know how lucky you've got it now. So, but that, I'm very grateful for that very basic grounding of people live very different lives. And luckily at school I was smart and I was good at sport, and that, although I had no money and didn't go on any school trips, in those days kids just got left out, they didn't do school trips and all those sort of things, and never had a new school uniform, and had to queue up embarrassingly for school dinner tickets because we didn't have any money, and you were ridiculed. I always looked confident, and I always looked like I didn't care, and they always wanted me on their sports team, and I was always sitting on the smart table. And I just feel grateful that those resilient skills got me through and set me up with resilience. I think people have a little, and this with what you do, people have a little tiny barrier in life, that they could just step over, but it's all too hard. I called them and they haven't called me back. Everything's too hard. They've got, they haven't exercised that resilient part of, okay, I couldn't get in today. Maybe I'll try a different way tomorrow. Maybe I'll go on LinkedIn. Maybe I'll learn a skill of how I can go a different way in the back door. Maybe I could try this. Maybe I could try that. People are just lazy. And the little hiccup of challenge comes along and it's, too hard. Their arms are up, And so I'm very grateful for that upbringing that I had, because I think that stands me in a gratitude and also resilience, I think, and many other skills have come from that.
Brilliant. Well, I'm very grateful I asked that question, because that was a brilliant answer. So the next question is the give section. So what's a cause or a community that you're passionate about?
Well, leading on from that, I'm passionate about youth, disadvantaged youth, because although I was able to mentally detach myself from, poverty at the time, people in the same position as me weren't.
Mm-hmm.
And two things there. In those days, I'm 47 now. In those days, the difference between rich and poor was small. Somebody that was rich in our school would have had a car and a house. Now it's not like that. Poor is in a car, if you're lucky, sleeping in the car, and rich, they could be having, 4 houses. So the gap is much bigger. It's much more obvious. If you haven't been lucky enough as me to be in the poorer community, you'd not understand how hard life is day to day, how you're already on the back foot. Simple things like having clothes that fit. I never had a pair of shoes that fit. I never had a top that fitted. I didn't have anything new till I was about 16. And I remember getting my first pair of black socks that were brand new out of a packet, because I earned money, but I wouldn't spend it on clothes, because to me, clothes was just such a waste of money to spend it on. I was saving for a car to get out, to get mobile. And so I know that if a youth, an 18-year-old that might have had a life with a herd of people that might think one way, but they've got a little light, a little glimmer of life could be different for me, I'm putting together a scholarship program where they can come along and have a ticket to a workshop. They have to earn that ticket, but therefore so much of our workshops are to do with mindset. And it's your mindset that gets in the way. Sales is 99.99% mindset. So the youth, disadvantaged youth, and to be coupled with that, also domestic violence, because again, if we can help the parent that's escaped have a skill set of sales, they can get a job anywhere. They can be confident to go and get an interview to work in McDonald's or do whatever job and ask for part-time. And of course, they've got the right mindset to pass it on to their kids. So those two things are very close to my heart. We've got a very clear program of exactly how we're going to run both of those. And it's what gets me out of bed in the morning, actually.
Excellent. Well, we're going to shift gears a little. So the last section is the action section. And I'm going to ask you a couple of questions and get some rapid fire responses. So the first one is, what are your top 3 productivity tips?
Constant reshuffling of priorities, number 1. Yep. Number 2, constant reshuffling of priorities. And number 3, constantly reshuffling your priorities. That's it. That's all I have to say, because that's it as far as I'm concerned. Just keep looking and changing, making sure you're on top of where your energy and effort is going versus the outcome.
Brilliant. And, some, whether it's technology, software on your phone, like what are some technology or software that supports you and your business?
I'm going to completely let the whole business down here, because I'm slow to act on this area, Paul. I'm embarrassed to say, but in a quick fire way, we use a CRM system that is vaguely doing what I want, but there's a better one like the one that you have. Asana I use for, not quite, but it's for a management tool, but for us as a team to discuss things with each other. And we use Dropbox. They're the 3 things that are on all our devices at all times. And so they're the ones that are keeping the business afloat.
Great. And any podcasts that you listen to?
I don't actually. I sort of pop in and out of all sorts of different ones. I mean, I love listening to your ones. I love listening to anything about business with tips. More books, actually. I've just read recently, or getting into the road less travelled. Anything to do with, how, again, your perception on what's good and what's bad, and what's getting around challenges to the road less travelled. That's an old book. That's all about if something was people get a challenge and they see it negatively, whereas, children at school, they're given 25 challenges a day and they embrace it, but suddenly you get over 20 and you sort of shrink away from challenges. So I'm really into that thinking at the moment. Shantaram, things like that, mindset material, I'm obsessed with all that.
Brilliant. And the last question is, what impact do you want to leave on this great planet?
I would really like to, it gets me, it fulfills me and my team, not just me, when people leave the workshop looking different and they say to my team, I am raring to go. And you can feel intrinsically their shift. They've learned the skills, yes, but now you can tell someone's confident, they stand differently, they're motivated, they're ready to go. And if I can do that with people that need it more than others, that's the area that I want to go into, so I can help more people and create the world that they want.
Excellent. Well, look, it's been such a pleasure having you on. I love working with you. You know, like I said, I've been in your workshops. I've seen that shift in first person and myself. I've been in sales for, I don't even want to tell you how long, a long time. And, I learned a lot of things by going on your program. So, highly recommend it. If you want to find out more about Charmaine and what her team does, just go to smarterselling.com.au. So thanks a lot for being on today, Charlene.
Oh, Paul, thank you. And do you know what? Thanks for having it. And thanks for running all the podcasts that you do, in particular the great material on LinkedIn, because that's one of our daily habits here in the office. We always pop on to seeing what you're saying, because you draw a good crowd with very intelligent conversations. It's always helpful. So thank you to you for allowing, us as the audience just pop on and learn so many skills every day.
Brilliant. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks, Paul. Bye-bye now.
What an amazing interview with Charmaine. She's got such energy and passion, and her story, I know, went a bit longer than most of our podcasts, but I think it was so important to capture all of that. So what are the three key takeouts? So one is, when she goes and assesses, she asks, is it a skill or a marketplace for the reason for underperforming? And I think, her ability to ask questions is amazing. You have something and someone needs it, communication. That's her definition of sales, which I think is a great mind shift change. And also the last one is just, gratitude and making every post a winner and giving back. I think she really lives the values of Build, Live, Give. You can get the links to the show notes at buildlivegive.com/podcast. If you're a corporate escapee yourself and you'd love to share your story, email support@buildlivegive.com. And please take action from today and make a positive impact on the world.
Thank you for listening to the Corporate Escapees podcast, brought to you by Build, Live, Give. If you would like to join a community of like-minded peers, please visit www.buildlivegive.com. Until next time, thanks for listening and be brave.